Let's be honest, we live in a world where some of our deepest connections and biggest confusions happen over a screen. 1 minute he's texting you, "Good morning, beautiful," like you're the center of his world, and the next he's vanished like Houdini. We're left wondering, what is he thinking? What does he want? And most of all, how do I know if I'm wasting my time? Today, I'm not here to give you generic rules, I'm here to give you power. Because understanding how a man texts is not about playing games. It's about seeing patterns, respecting your worth, and knowing the difference between someone who's interested and someone who's just available. When it comes to understanding a man through his texting habits, consistency is one of the most powerful indicators of his true intentions. We often fall into the trap of analyzing individual messages, what he said, the words he used, the emojis he picked, but we miss the bigger picture. What matters more than what he says in any one moment is how consistently he shows up over time. If a man is truly interested in you, it's not just about a few sweet texts sprinkled here and there. It's about whether those messages become a regular, dependable part of your interaction with him. Consistency tells you that you're not just a passing thought, but part of his routine. When someone is genuinely invested in getting to know you, they won't go dark for days without explanation, only to pop back up like nothing happened. They won't bombard you with messages when they're bored and then disappear when life gets busy. A man who has sincere intentions will find a way to maintain a steady line of communication even when he's dealing with the chaos of everyday life. Think about it this way, we all make time for what matters to us. It doesn't mean someone needs to be glued to their phone, replying within seconds. That's not the point. The point is the pattern. Does he reach out regularly? Does he follow up on conversations you've had? Does he remember things you've told him and bring them up later? These are signs that he's not only listening, but thinking about you when you're not around. That kind of presence doesn't happen by accident. It's the result of genuine effort and attention. On the other hand, inconsistency is almost always a red flag. If he texts you for 2 days straight, disappears for a week, and then returns acting like nothing happened, he's showing you something, whether or not he says it directly. Inconsistency often reveals a lack of priority. Maybe he's unsure, maybe he's emotionally unavailable, or maybe he's just keeping his options open. Whatever the reason, it's not your job to chase clarity. It's your job to recognize the behavior for what it is and decide what standard you're willing to accept. Consistency is also how trust is built. When someone shows up the same way over time, you start to feel safe. You're not constantly wondering where you stand or what today's tone will be. You begin to relax into the connection, and that's when something real can grow. But if every message leaves you questioning, if you're constantly reading between the lines or waiting for him to reply, that's emotional instability, not intimacy. It's easy to make excuses for inconsistent behavior. Maybe he's just not a good texter. Maybe he's really busy. Maybe he's shy. But deep down, you already know when something doesn't feel right. The truth is, communication styles may differ, but effort is universal. A man who wants you in his life will create a rhythm that reflects that desire. He won't just say he's interested. He'll show it in how often and how intentionally he connects with you. When trying to understand a man through his texting habits, one of the biggest traps people fall into is believing that delayed replies mean he's just busy. We tell ourselves stories. Maybe he's at work, maybe he forgot, maybe his phone died. But often the truth is simpler and harder to face. Delayed replies don't reflect his schedule as much as they reflect his priorities. Everyone gets busy, yes. But we all make time for the things that matter to us. If someone consistently takes hours or even days to reply and doesn't offer context or effort to reconnect meaningfully, that's a signal worth paying attention to. We live in a world where communication is easier and more accessible than ever before. Phones are almost always within reach, and even in the busiest of days, a quick text takes seconds. When someone is genuinely interested, they won't want you left wondering where they went. They'll want you to know they're thinking about you. Even if they can't talk at that moment, it might be a quick busy day, or message you later, or a short check-in to show that you're still on their mind. The absence of these small gestures over time reveals more than silence. It reveals a lack of thought. It's not about being glued to your phone or expecting instant replies. That's unrealistic and unhealthy. People have responsibilities, lives, moments when they disconnect, and that's totally normal. But what's not normal, or rather, what's not acceptable if you're looking for something real, is a repeated pattern of delayed, vague, or low-effort responses with no follow-through. That's not being busy, that's being unavailable emotionally, or simply not prioritizing the relationship. Think about how you behave when you're excited about someone. You check your phone a little more often, you respond when you can, you find moments in your day to connect because you want that person to feel seen, to know they matter. That same energy is what you should be looking for in return. If it's not there, don't get trapped in the illusion of potential. Pay attention to what's actually happening, not what you hope will happen. A man's texting habits are rarely random. They're reflective of his inner state, what he values, how he connects, and what level of investment he's truly willing to make. If you find yourself constantly waiting, checking your phone, rereading old messages, wondering if you said something wrong, or crafting the perfect reply to reignite his interest, you're already in a one-sided dynamic. You're trying to fill the gaps that he's not even acknowledging. Delayed replies can also serve as a form of subtle control, whether it's intentional or not. When someone keeps you guessing, they're keeping the power dynamic tilted. You're spending more time thinking about them than they are thinking about you. That imbalance starts to affect your self-esteem. It makes you feel like you need to do more to earn a response, when in reality the problem is a lack of reciprocation, not a lack of worth. It's easy to rationalize inconsistency with external circumstances, work stress, family issues, mental health, all valid and real things. But even in difficult times, people who care make the smallest effort to show it. You can't build a connection on assumptions, silence, or long gaps filled with guesswork. You build it on presence, however small or simple. A message doesn't have to be long, it just has to be thoughtful. A pattern of being present, even in small ways, says more than an occasional love bomb followed by disappearance. Also, observe how a man's texting behavior changes over time. At the beginning, he might be responsive, engaged, eager to connect. But if that energy fades quickly and you're left holding on to a version of him that existed only for a week or two, ask yourself, is he showing up now, or am I holding on to who he was at the start? People can present their best selves for short bursts, but consistency and timing is what reveals character. If someone starts delaying responses as soon as they feel they have your attention, that's not about being busy. That's about comfort, complacency, or a shift in interest. You deserve clarity, and clarity often comes not from what a person says, but how consistently they show up in your life. If someone truly values you, they'll make you feel it in how quickly they seek connection, in how often they reach out, and in how reliable they become, even during life's busiest moments. Delayed replies aren't just about time, they're about effort, intention, and emotional availability. If you're always the one waiting, the message has already been sent. When it comes to deciphering a man's level of interest through texting, initiation is one of the clearest signals you can observe. Who starts the conversation most of the time? Is it always you reaching out first, checking in, trying to keep the connection alive, or does he show a natural desire to engage with you by starting conversations on his own? Initiation matters because it reflects effort, interest, and emotional investment. When a man is genuinely into you, he won't wait passively for you to show up. He'll want to talk to you, check in, and be part of your day without needing a prompt. Many people underestimate the power of initiation in texting dynamics. They think if the conversations are good once they get going, that must mean everything is fine. But the truth is, if someone only responds and never initiates, they're not truly invested in building a connection. They're available, not proactive. There's a big difference between someone who is happy to hear from you and someone who actively wants to connect with you. The first can leave you feeling like you're always doing the emotional work. The second creates a mutual rhythm that builds real intimacy. Initiation is not just about frequency, it's about intentionality. What does he say when he messages first? Is it thoughtful? Is he asking how your day went? Following up on something you mentioned earlier, or sharing something that reminded him of you? Or is it a vague hey, or a lazy message with no real direction? The quality of his initiation speaks volumes about the depth of his interest. Someone who wants to know you on a deeper level will text with purpose, even if the message itself is simple. A random meme that connects to an inside joke, a quick update on something meaningful, or a just thinking about you message, all show that he's mentally and emotionally engaged. A man who never initiates but always responds may not even realize the imbalance he's creating. But it still affects you. It leaves you questioning whether you're pushing too much, whether you're coming across as needy, or whether he'd even notice if you stopped texting first. That mental spiral is exhausting, and it usually stems from carrying more emotional weight than the other person in the dynamic. When someone truly values you, you won't feel like you're constantly chasing connection. It will come back to you naturally, without prompting. In healthy communication, initiation becomes a shared act. You message him first sometimes, and he does the same. There's no scoreboard, no anxiety, no wondering if silence means disinterest. But if you're the only one ever starting the conversation, that's not just a quirk in communication style, it's often a reflection of who's more emotionally engaged. People who care will reach out. Even if they're not great at texting, even if they're busy, they'll find a way to say, "You matter to me." That might come in the form of a short message, but the key is that it's unprompted. It's coming from them because they want to, not because they have to. Sometimes initiation is sporadic and inconsistent. A guy might message you first one week, go silent the next, and then suddenly pop up again. This kind of behavior can be confusing because it gives just enough attention to keep you interested without creating a reliable connection. This pattern is not about genuine curiosity or emotional availability. It's often about convenience or boredom. A man who initiates only when it suits him is not showing commitment, he's showing fluctuation. And fluctuation is not the same as growth. Another thing to pay attention to is how a man reacts when you stop initiating. If you take a step back and stop messaging first, does he notice? Does he reach out? Or does the communication simply stop altogether? That moment is revealing. It shows you whether the connection had two engines or one. If he truly values the relationship, he'll feel your absence and act on it. If he doesn't, you'll realize you were the one doing all the work to begin with. Initiation is a form of emotional investment. It's someone saying, "You're on my mind and I want to let you know." It doesn't have to be daily. It doesn't have to be poetic, but it does have to be present. A man who wants to build something with you will not sit silently and wait for you to drive the connection every time. He will step forward, take initiative, and show through action that he sees your value without needing constant reminders. When you're trying to understand a man through his texting habits, one of the most important things to pay attention to is the content of what he sends. The words he chooses, the way he responds, the topics he brings up. These are all windows into his emotional depth. It's not just about how often he texts or how fast he replies. Those things matter. But the real gold is in the substance of the conversation. A man who's emotionally engaged will go beyond surface level chatter. He'll want to connect on a deeper level. And you'll feel that through the kind of things he's willing to talk about. It's easy to mistake long texts or frequent messages for emotional investment, but quantity doesn't always equal quality. A man can text you all day and still say nothing of meaning. Messages that revolve around weird, random memes or flirtatious one-liners might keep a conversation going, but they don't build intimacy. What truly builds a connection is vulnerability, curiosity, and a willingness to be seen and to see you for who you are. If he talks about things that matter to him, shares personal stories, asks meaningful questions, and listens thoughtfully to your answers, that's a sign of emotional availability. Emotional depth in texting also shows up in how he responds to your vulnerable moments. If you open up about your day, your challenges, or your dreams, does he meet you there? Or does he brush it off with a joke, change the subject, or go silent? A man who values connection will lean into those moments. He won't need to have all the right answers, but he'll show you that he's present, that he's listening, and that he cares. Even something as simple as, "That sounds really hard, I'm glad you told me," can go a long way in showing you he's emotionally attuned. Another layer to content is whether or not he follows up on things you've told him. When you mention an important meeting, a family issue, or even something small like a favorite show you're watching, does he remember and bring it up later? That kind of recall isn't about having a perfect memory. It's about care and attention. A man who remembers the details is a man who's mentally engaged. He's not just texting to pass the time. He's building a narrative with you. He's investing in your world. Content also reflects his intentions for the relationship. If the conversation is mostly playful, sexual, or vague, it might feel exciting in the moment, but it usually doesn't lead anywhere serious. That's not to say flirtation is a bad thing. It's fun, it's important, but if that's the foundation of every exchange, and he's not showing any interest in who you are beyond attraction, real interest always includes curiosity. A man who's emotionally invested will want to know what you think, what you feel, what you value, and what you want in life. Look for consistency in emotional content. It's not just about how deep one message is, it's about whether there's a pattern of emotional engagement over time. A one-time heartfelt message can feel amazing, but if it's followed by days of disconnection or dry responses, that's emotional inconsistency. True depth is steady. It might not always be intense, but it's always present. It creates a space where you don't have to second guess what's real and what's performance. It's also important to recognize how he handles conflict or discomfort through texting. Does he avoid serious conversations? Does he ghost when things get real or uncomfortable? Or does he face those moments with honesty and care, even if it's hard? Emotional depth isn't just about sweet words. It's about emotional courage, the ability to sit in tough conversations, to say, "This is how I feel," or to respond with empathy when you express your own feelings, is what separates emotionally mature men from emotionally unavailable ones. What a man says in his messages reflects what's going on inside of him. You can tell a lot about his emotional world by what he chooses to share, and just as much by what he doesn't. If every conversation stays at the surface, that's not accidental. It's often a sign of emotional walls. Some people aren't ready or willing to connect deeply, and that will show clearly in the texture of their communication. A man who is emotionally available will naturally invite you into his inner world, and not only that, he'll want to be invited into yours. When trying to read a man through his texting habits, one of the clearest indicators of genuine interest is effort. In a world full of quick replies, heart emojis, and lazy one-word messages, effort stands out. It's easy to confuse digital affection with real connection because texting can give the illusion of closeness. But if you look closely, it becomes clear that some men use texting as a tool to maintain minimal engagement while putting in minimal energy. True emotional investment doesn't just show up in symbols or fast replies. It shows up in the quality, depth, and intention behind the communication. Effort is not about how many emojis he uses or how many times he compliments you. It's about the thought he puts into his messages. Did he remember something you said yesterday and follow up on it? Did he take the time to ask how your presentation went, how you're feeling, or how your day actually was beyond a quick "how are you"? These moments may seem small, but they reveal how much mental and emotional space you occupy in his life. Effort in texting shows that he is paying attention. He isn't just going through the motions to keep your interest warm. He's actually engaged and trying to create something meaningful. Low-effort texting often comes in the form of messages that require little thought and create no real momentum. Hey, why, or a random fire emoji might be enough to spark a moment of attention, but these are not signs of someone who's invested in getting to know you. They're placeholders. They're just enough to keep the door open, but not enough to actually walk through it. A man who texts like this may not even realize how passive he's being. But the truth is, if the communication never moves beyond shallow or repetitive messages, it's not building connection. It's maintaining convenience. High-thought communication, on the other hand, has intention behind it. He doesn't just reach out because he's bored. He reaches out because he wants to make you feel seen. His messages might reference your conversations, ask deeper questions, or include stories and thoughts from his own life. He might send a link to an article he thinks you'd like, a song that reminded him of you, or a voice note because he wants to feel more connected. These things don't require grand gestures. They just require a genuine interest in building a relationship, not just maintaining contact. It's easy to fall into the trap of giving too much credit for too little effort. When you really like someone, even the bare minimum can feel exciting. A short message can spark hope. A random "miss you" text can make you believe something is progressing. But when effort is inconsistent or hollow, those moments become emotionally expensive. They keep you hooked on potential while draining your time and energy. Real connection is built when both people show up, not just when one person is willing to accept breadcrumbs. Effort is also visible in how he adapts and responds to your needs. If you mention that you prefer clarity, does he start being more direct? If you say that you value deeper conversation, does he try to meet you there? A man who is emotionally available and genuinely interested won't just communicate in a way that suits him. He'll also consider how to communicate in a way that makes you feel understood. That kind of emotional flexibility is rare, and it always comes from someone who is putting real thought into how they show up for you. Another form of effort is emotional risk. When a man is willing to be honest, even when it's uncomfortable or uncertain, he's investing in the possibility of something deeper. That might look like admitting he had a tough day, opening up about past relationships, or even being vulnerable enough to say that he misses you. These moments aren't about being dramatic or overly intense. They're about choosing to show something real instead of hiding behind the safety of small talk or humor. It's also important to consider whether effort is being sustained over time. Anyone can start strong. The beginning of a connection often brings out a man's best behavior, but what happens after a few weeks? Does he still put in the same energy, or do the messages get shorter, the questions disappear, and the attention fade? Consistency is part of effort. It's easy to be charming for a short while. It takes something deeper to keep showing up with the same presence and care over time. The kind of effort that builds relationships isn't loud, flashy, or poetic. It's steady, intentional, and thoughtful. It's in the little things, repeated often, not the grand gestures that disappear after a single message.